Good morning, my creative friends. Dr. Minette Riordan here with Painting in Your PJs live with Minette. And today is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, my friends. It's great to be back with you. A little under the weather today. That's why I missed yesterday as well. Not feeling 100%. So we'll probably have a short call this morning, but I didn't want to miss you guys 2 days in a row. And so I thought it might be fun to gift ourselves a bouquet of tulips today. Tulips are definitely one of my favorite flowers, and so I thought it would be a fun place to start and get going. So I'm gonna have a sip of tea here. And I wish there were a way to notify people when I'm not able to make the classes, but I haven't figured that out yet. So let me just move all this a little bit closer to me here. All right, so I found this cute, just simple sketch of some tulips. My perspective here on my page is a little bit different than this image, which is a lot longer. So I'm going to start with the one in the middle, and I'm actually going to start with it just off center. Notice how when we look at this tulip image, that main tulip there or there, they're slightly off center. It creates more visual interest in the page so that it's not so squared up, and it's easy to want to put things right smack in the middle of the page when we're drawing, but actually it's much simpler or much more visually interesting to move things around on the page a little bit. So I'm going to start here and just start to sketch some of these tulips in, not worried too much about, making them look exactly like what's happening in the image. Tulips tend to have really long stems and long greenery as well. I'm kind of wondering if I wanted to paint that background first, but we'll see. I notice all the tulips are just slightly different shapes. I am working in a handmade journal that I've been working in all month, and this used canvas tape to put it all together, and it's kind of a interesting surface to draw and paint on. And we notice that this leaf is a little bit bent here. We've got one kind of coming, maybe we'll bring that one way up at the top, so I'm putting mine a little bit closer together because I'm not going to fit this many tulips onto the page for sure. But again, it's just getting the idea of giving myself a gift of tulips and getting that going. And then I'm going to bring in one little small one down here. And like I said, part of the challenge with YouTube is there's not really any way to let people know when I'm not going to be there, which is kind of frustrating. And apologies for anybody that was here live yesterday and missed out. But again, it's just what's happening. So we've been talking about self-love all month long. Can't believe we're midway into February this year already. And I love fresh flowers, and I will often buy myself fresh flowers. I have a beautiful bouquet upstairs right now. Also, when we're drawing, we want to be thinking about odd numbers, not even numbers of things to create. You notice there's 7 in this drawing. I think I'm going to have 5. Also creates visual interest when we have things in odd numbers. And wishing all of you a happy Valentine's Day, whether you're celebrating on your own or with some loved ones, but just to pause to think about what are you doing lately to take care of yourself? What are you doing lately to take care of yourself? All right, so we have kind of a simple drawing of some tulips hanging out in the background here. And we're going to start in with our painting this morning. And our theme for this week is going to be good morning, happy Valentine's Day. Again, apologies for not being here yesterday. I'm a little bit under the weather, so we may have kind of a quick short lesson today. But we're drawing ourselves some happy Valentine's tulips on the page. So I just did a really quick sketch. And I want to get some color all over the background. I probably should have done that first and then drawn the tulips, but we'll just see how it goes. And if I put a pretty transparent layer, I should be able to see that drawing through. Let's see what we can get up to here. All right, I've got some Jelly Arts fresh water. I love tulips. They are one of my favorite flowers. They definitely bring a lot of joy and brightness, both to gardens when they're fresh and cut outside, or when they're fresh outside in the garden, or when they're cut in a vase. The color, they have kind of a whimsical shape about them that I really love. And one of the things that's always been on, I'll put some paper under here so I don't get paint all over that mandala design back there. And one of the things that's always been on my bucket list would be to go to Holland to see all the tulips growing. And I've had a few different gardens that I've had the pleasure of visiting over the years. And we were pretty happy when we moved into our house here last May. Spring is it was very late, and we had tulips growing in our garden. What a treat. So I've got a very simple background. I can still see the drawing of my tulips in between. I'm going to get that blue just spread around, cover up all those edges. I like the kind of sketchy look. There's a lot of texture on the page from the gesso. Good morning, Marion. I was saying earlier on that I'm a little under the weather today. I was sick yesterday, and there's no way to let people know when I'm not going to be here, which is, I know, kind of frustrating for people, but I'm very happy to be here with all of you this morning as well. And we're painting a bouquet of tulips for ourselves for Valentine's Day. So I started with this simple sketch. You can't see them as well on my page now, but I drew 5 tulips on my page. And I love tulips. I had beautiful tulips when we lived in Texas, and daffodils. And I saw someone post a picture recently of some beautiful crocus already coming up. We're nowhere near that here. It's lovely and warm this morning, but like it says, my computer says it's 51 outside, which I find a little hard to believe, but um, it's going to be a high of like 13 tomorrow. How is the house, Marion? Is everything coming along? Getting it all put back together? Water leaks are the worst. I'm going to mute myself and get this dry. Okie dokie. So here I have a simple bright blue background that I added with my scraper. It doesn't need a lot more, so I'm going for simplicity. Beware frozen dishwasher parts. Oh, I can't even imagine from that big cold snap that you guys had. So I'm going to keep this one pretty simple today, but I want the colors of my tulips to be really vibrant. And we've talked about this a little bit before, but one of the ways to do that is to, and I think I left my white paint over on my other table, so I may have to go grab that and my gesso. Goodness. So I'm going to paint some white over my tulips and my leaves now that I have my blue background down as a way to make sure that those colors are super vibrant and are going to really nicely pop. Here's some nice titanium white, so we'll use that. Thank you, Blanca. I can't think of anywhere else I would rather be. I'm probably going to cancel a lot of my other things today, but you know, I feel better when I start my day with creativity. At least I slept last night, which I did not the night before. So not sleeping is like makes everything else harder. So I have sketched in my tulips. I painted over everything with a layer of blue. Now I'm coming back in here with just a little thin layer of just some titanium white because I'm really going to want those colors to pop on top of that blue. And the thing that I love about tulips is how vibrant they are. And I'm getting so excited about my color coded emotions workshop this weekend. Got the workbook all done and in the classroom yesterday, and I've been having so much fun with the content. And we have, I don't know, 46, 47 people. So that's exciting as well. This teaching live is definitely my jam. Just letting that one flow right off the page there. And the link is in the description below the video. All right. So I love paintings like this that are super simple. Maybe one more leaf in here. And when I'm visual journaling, it's easy to let go of, because I'm working in a journal, making things look really realistic or specific. And so having some pages that are just simple and playful and fun and just a little bit of experimentation helps us practice. And the theme for this week that I wanted to really sort of dip into is the theme of deep work. And I'll share more about that over the next couple of days. But deep work was kind of a phrase made popular. Oh, I love that, Mary, and I'm looking forward to having you there. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be really different than some of the other things we've done before. So happy to have you there. And it is going to be fun. So Cal Newport wrote a book a number of years ago. Okay, that one's red. I'm just getting some reds and some pinks here to play with. And he wrote this book called Deep Work. And I remember my husband and I listened to it on a road trip to a conference one time. So I'm going to start with my flowers and then I'm going to add in my leaves. And he talked a lot about writers, for example, but also other famous business people, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, that made time for what he calls deep work. And deep work is uninterrupted focus time. So my tulips for Valentine's Day are going to be pinks and reds. And I'm going to keep my colors fairly loose and build up some layers of color. I'll come in for the details last. But my husband and I often come back to conversations around this idea of deep work and uninterrupted focus time. And for me, so Marion set me up for that appropriately, talking about, missing her art time last week. I know that I miss it a lot when I'm not being proactive and making time for making art. So even though I don't feel great today, there's again no place I'd rather be than here with all of you. And he talked about, I can't remember, some famous writer. I remember the story who literally had a writer's garret and he would disappear into his garret every day for a certain number of hours. But we don't often give ourselves the gift of uninterrupted focus time, right? Like we tend to maybe try to multitask, do more than one thing at a time. We're listening to music, watching TV, and it's really important and valuable to create that space for yourself to do your deep work. And in the case of art, for me, this is not about, professional career work, but it's the things that we say are important to us. And I'm just having fun with these colors here. You can't see a lot of the distinction in the colors because the glare in the light, but I'm just playing with some of these reds and pinks to get some texture going on the page. And part of what deep work is about is that commitment to our own creative practice, making that regular, consistent time to just be with our art, right? Practice is the thing that helps us get better. So doing even just a simple little painting like this one is such a great way to just get color on the page and to practice looking at shape, to practice looking at design. We talked about, having the main flowers be not directly in the center of page to create more visual interest. We talked about, excuse me, we talked about having an odd number of elements on the page also creates visual interest. So I'm probably going to add more to these, but I'm going to let that layer get a little bit dry and bring in some of my greens. So I'm going to want kind of a nice bright green and a little darker green as well for add a little bit of shade and dimension. But to let yourself just play, experiment, be with whatever shows up without judgment. I'm just trying to figure out what my other shade of green is. So this was just a nice light green. So let's try a little bit of this phthalo green. It may be a little more blue than I want, but we'll see. We'll get some of those down on there. And I might even come in there with a little pop of yellow for maybe some nice lime green here for a little bright. I'm not worrying about mixing colors. I'm not worrying about making this spectacular or original. I'm really wanting to just be really playful and fun this morning. So I'm going to come in with that dark green first. There's not a lot of difference there between that green and the background, but that's okay. We're just building up those layers. And then I'm going to come in with my medium green and we'll start to see that really brighten up those leaves. Again, I'm keeping it loose. I'm not attached to the outcome this morning. Just creating a happy, bright page of tulips. Definitely going to want to come in with some darker colors to do a little outlining, create a little more shading around the edges of the pages. Get my brush nice and clean, and then I'm going to see if this limey green is bright enough to create some lights in there. If not, I'm going to add a little bit of white to that and see if we can brighten that up even more. And while I'm not paying too much attention to where the light is coming from or being too precious with that, I'm putting all of my highlights on the right side, meaning that the light is coming from the right. So it's picking up these edges of things. And this will just help to give a little dimension without having to work too hard at it. And you can't really see all the variety in the colors. I wonder if that looks, so if you see, if I get up close, you can really see how much color there is in each of these. And so having fun just building up those layers of colors. Having fun building up those layers of colors. Bring even a little more white in there. Getting to a place where you're happy with the leaves. And I love gifting myself a bouquet of flowers this morning. What a lovely way to start Valentine's Day. Okay, I'm going to come back in with some of that darkest green and a smaller brush and create maybe just a little bit more dimension in the, especially in the stems, right? Because the stems are quite round. I'm just bringing in a little bit of that dark. I'm going to add a little bit of my red, which is the contrasting, right? The opposite color on the color wheel, to that green and darken that up even a little bit more. So rather than adding a darker green just by mixing a little bit of that red in there, I'm going to get a nice dark. Keeping everything within the same sort of color palette here. And it's great to, once you have your palette of colors, to really use what's on your palette to mix your darks, right? Rather than adding some black or adding a darker green that might be a different tone or shade, to stick with your same colors and mix them together. If I were to mix a brighter red and green together, I'd get a different shade. What's up, kitty cat? Yes, good morning. All right, come on up. She's insisting on sitting on my lap, and she's sitting here tapping on the edges of my legs. There she is. Good morning. She loves to sit in my lap while I paint, but lately then she tries to grab the paintbrush or the pen or whatever it is that I'm drawing with. So already just coming in with that little bit of dark, we get a little more dimension. And I've got just a tiny bit of that dark still on my brush. So I'm going to come over here and mix that with my red. So I'm going to go the opposite direction. So I'm going to get a nice dark red on there. And I'm going to start to come in and add a little bit of that to my tulips, sort of imagining where those petals were. And I think sometimes we think, that things have to be complicated. We need to know how to draw. And when we remind ourselves that we can keep it simple and still create something beautiful. 80 days, that's amazing, Blanca. I love it. Has it really been 80 days? It's beautiful. Same to you, Kay. Happy Valentine's Day. Good morning, Judy. If you weren't here, or if you were here yesterday, I was not because I'm feeling a little bit under the weather, and I didn't want to miss another day with you guys. All right, so that's enough dark. So now I'm definitely going to want to come back in and just add some highlights and brighten things up. And oops, that's not my white. And we're going to have just a simple, fast tulip page today. Okay, where did I put my tube of white? There's not that many places for things to go, and so it cracks me up that how easy it is to lose things in such a small space. But yes, happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Painting myself a bouquet of tulips this morning. All right. Then come in with just get a nice clean brush and a little bit of white and a brighter pink. So I don't want pure white on there. I'm going to mix some white with my pink here and come in with some of those highlights across the tops, letting it mix with some of those darks, remembering that my light was over here on this side of the leaves, so I'm repeating that on my tulips. And I'm working with kind of short brush strokes. You can see I'm holding my brush back here, not like a pen. Then I can't have as much control. And just continuing to build up the layers. Because when we see those layers built up, is when we start to really get the sense of the fullness of our flowers. And when you look at most flowers up close, they're not a solid color, right? They really are a beautiful variety of colors. All right. Getting some of that maybe a little darker than I wanted, so we'll come back in with some of that brighter pink again, but it's a happy page, right? It's just a happy, simple Valentine's page. Okay, I come in with even a little bit more white. Just add a little touch of that in a few spots in there. And you guys know by now from watching me, it's like I'm putting on paint, I'm taking paint off, just moving that around the page. And when we look at a flower, it doesn't have harsh lines, right? Those colors are definitely blended together. But I do want to be able to see the edges of some of those petals. Noticing that no two of the tulips are the same. That they're all just, excuse me, slightly different from each other. I think maybe a little bit more white on my leaves as well to brighten those up. And the sides of my stems, not along the whole thing, but just a few little spots of brightness. To brighten that whole page up. So again, a super simple page here for Valentine's Day. We'll keep this lesson pretty short. Hopefully by tomorrow I will be feeling like myself again and back with all of you. But thank you for joining me. Thank you for your patience when I'm not here. And I hope you have an absolutely sweet, lovely day. Great to see you all, my friends. Happy Valentine's Day. Bye bye, everybody.